All right, welcome back, 7th graders. This is lesson 9.2. Make sure that you have watched part 1 before you're watching part 2 here. This is where we left off, so I'm going to continue on to the next slide. And the next slide is actually an on your own page. So why don't you go ahead and take the time to already stop and pause the video. But I want to make sure that you understand how you are solving these, so please solve them out. Make sure you're adding up all your data and then dividing by the amount it has. Once you have done that, please continue on with the video and double check your work. So go ahead, pause the video, solve out these problems. All right, time to double check your answers. I did not put in the work this time because again, this should be review. So you're adding up those totals and then dividing by the amount there is. So I added up all of these, divided by 8, and I get 57. This was tricky. Make sure you understood that these were decimal places and then divide out by, it looks like there's 5 digits, so divide by 5. Number 3, it asks, there's new messages in your inbox. So on average, it looks to be that you get 3.5. And the minutes spent getting ready for school looks to be on average 45.8. Okay. So let's keep going with this and we'll move on to the next part. All right. So example 4, the table shows the height of several Shetland ponies. So have you ever seen those Shetland ponies that are kind of the small ones? I believe they're the ones that have kind of those really long manes to them. So what we need to do in this data is we need to identify any outliers. Now, I don't have the definition right here with outliers, but I love being able to describe outliers to you. 8th grade is even doing something with this just in the last unit or 2. They had been doing this where they were making graphs and identifying outliers. Outliers are basically the ones that make almost no sense given your data. They're either way too small or way too big, okay? So they're going to be things that are a little different than the rest of the bunch. And it's okay to be different, as we've talked before, okay? So outliers, I think, are fun to identify because of this. So when I'm kind of looking at this data here, I'm noticing that I'm getting 40s as well as like high 30s as I'm going along. Oh, but then there's this number. So this one I would say is your outlier. Okay, so identify any outliers. I would say your outlier is 28. Okay, and it's in inches because we're looking at how tall these ponies are. Because everyone else is pretty much a high 30, almost low 40 amount of number. So then we need to find the mean with as well as without the outlier. So we're going to have 2 different means. So let's just break it down the middle here. This side will be the mean with the outlier, and this will be the mean without the outlier. So if I'm going to have the mean with the outlier, I'm going to add every single data point that I have here. And it looks to be that I have 10 points, okay? So I'm going to go ahead. I'm not necessarily going to write this all out again, but I'm going to just plug this into my calculator here and find what it's going to be. So I'd have 40 plus 38 plus 37 plus 38 plus another 39, 37... All right, so my top part looks to be that I get 379, and there is a total of 10 digits, so I'm going to divide it by 10. Dividing by 10 is really easy because you can just take the decimal place and move it 1 over. So really then I have 37.9, okay, is your average in inches. Let's figure it out without the outlier. So what happens if I got rid of this pony? And I was like, you know what? He's too short. I don't want to add him in to the rest of the bunch. You're kind of almost including him, but in a good way, because you're going to notice what's going to happen with this data when I don't have the outlier in there. So now that I completely got rid of that 28 number here, I actually am now down to only a total of 9 numbers. So I'm going to divide it out of 9. So I'm going to go back and re-add all of these, or one way I could do this is I could just take this 379 and subtract that 28. All right, so it looks to be that I get 351. Once I've done that, 351 divided by 9, I can't easily do that one in my head. So it looks to be that I get 39 inches. So this last part here, I'm not necessarily going to write out just because it's not as easy for me to write it out, but I do expect that you're writing it out. I'm just going to kind of verbalize it to you and you write it out in your own words and how you want to phrase this. But the last part is describe how the outlier affects the mean. So that's really what I wanted you to be able to notice once we took that outlier out. And looking then back at the mean. So let's go to blue and feel blue now. So here is your mean with the outlier, and here's your mean without it. So really what you're going to do is you're going to describe how this number changed, okay? Why is this number so much lower, and why is this number so much higher, okay? Well, if you think about this, this number is also reflecting that little pony that, you know, maybe he's just too short, or maybe he's not full grown yet, and we're still including him in here. And so his number is going to bring this number, or his height is going to bring this average down, okay? Whereas if we got rid of him and kind of, you know, just decided, oh, we weren't going to count him in the mix and we only want to count 9 of them, you're going to get a little bit more of an accurate data of the typical types, or the typical height of a normal Shetland pony, okay? So that's where you're going to see this number, and that's why this number is going to be a little bit higher, because this number isn't dragging it down almost, okay? I mean, I know I don't want to make it sound like I am prejudiced towards the poor little pony, but this is just kind of what people do in those cases of data. Sometimes, you know, it's just best to take out that outlier. Or that outlier can add very important pieces to your information and make people realize, hey, not all these ponies are going to be the exact same height, okay? Or really are going to be that average. They're going to be a lot different. Sometimes they're going to be higher or lower. So that's why we need to take a look at both sets, with and without the outlier. All right. Okay, so I want you to take the minute to go ahead and solve these problems. So the biggest thing is just understanding how is that going to affect the mean. So for each data set, identify the outlier. So just pull out which one's going to be the one that's completely different, and then explain how this would change your data set. Okay, so just take the time to look at this here for a minute, and then I'll come back and kind of explain it as well when we get back. So pause the video and solve these problems. All right, thanks for coming back. So the first one is your weight in pounds of dogs at a kennel. So maybe we had a whole bunch of dogs at kennels. Sometimes, you know, when people go away on vacations, they leave them in kennels at dog boarding places or something. And maybe we're just wanted to survey the dogs that are there. So for the most part, we've got, okay, a high 40, 50, 50, okay, a 60. Oh, an 8. Now, 37 is kind of low for the rest of these, but ultimately this 8 pound is way different from the rest of them. So that's going to be my outlier. And the biggest thing, again, just when understanding how this affects the mean, is that if you do include this outlier in this case, because this outlier is smaller, the outlier is going to bring the average down. Okay, so it's the biggest thing you would want to write down for here is that this outlier would bring the average down. Okay. In problem number 4, then they're talking about prices of flights from Miami, Florida to San Juan, Puerto Rico. I wonder if this is really how much the prices are, or how different they are now. Right now it's not a good estimate because prices are so low and no one's traveling. But looking at all these kind of numbers, I'm kind of just like surveying them. I'm like, okay, we got 400, 500, 500, 900, 400. This 900 seems a lot different than the rest, okay? So that's going to be my outlier. And in this case, since my outlier is a lot bigger than everything else, what's going to happen to the mean is that the mean is going to be bigger than what the average really should be, okay? So that's what you're describing. How does this affect the mean? It will make the mean number larger than it should be, is basically what you're going to write out, okay? So understanding that it can either drag the mean down or bump the mean up depending on if your outlier is larger or if it's smaller. Okay. Let's keep it rolling. Oh, That was it. I thought there was more to it. I surprised my own self. Oh man, guys, I wish I could joke with you at school. I miss it. I miss all your jokes. You knew how to make me laugh. All right, so again, your workbook is just going to be kind of a review. So if you want to use it, you can. Your homework then is going to be this 9.2. Okay, you're going to find it on your Big Ideas Math. Make sure that you're getting those done. If you have questions, feel free to let me know. Remember that you are going to need that code word. I don't tell you ever where that code word is. I just give you the hint at the end and the beginning sometimes, but you got to make sure that you're watching the whole video through. So with that being said, these assignments will go up online on the 27th, so that Monday, the 27th of April, and this one is going to be due that Sunday, this Sunday, which I believe is the 3rd. So this is going to be due on May 3rd. So make sure you're getting those homework assignments done. Again, I'm telling you, make sure to get them done in the week, so Monday through Friday. I understand that sometimes things get busy or something else happened or you're in charge of babysitting, and so give you a few extra days on the weekend in hopes that you are able to get some stuff done over the weekend as well, but you will have till Sunday evening on the 3rd to get it this done, okay? Keep moving forward, keep having a smile on your face, send me some jokes if you want to make me laugh. Hopefully I made you laugh in this video, so I'll catch you on in the next one. So tomorrow you will be watching lesson 9.3. So I will see you then. Have a good day.